Pat McAfee had time today, and he used it to tear into Rex Ryan like a man fed up with fax machines in the smartphone era. What started as Shedeur Sanders doing a silent mime act at a press conference has now turned into full-on NFL cable warfare, featuring spicy takes, bruised egos, and a cultural clash between old-school football loyalty and the TikTok era's content-first strategy.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The drama popped off when Sanders, currently the third-string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, responded to questions about being benched in favor of Dillon Gabriel, not with words, but with pantomime. No voice, just vibes. And the internet ate it up. NFL fans split into factions overnight. Some called it bold and brilliant, a perfect bit of media-savvy trolling. Others said Sanders just put his career in a blender for clout. Enter Rex Ryan, huffing into a studio mic, spitting classic football rhetoric about team focus and distractions, clearly rattled by a 22-year-old silent protest. And then there's McAfee, ever the wild card, slamming Ryan's take as outdated, while praising Shedeur's response as a calculated flex in an increasingly content-driven NFL landscape. Ken Dorsey even stepped in with a more measured view, saying it all comes down to locker room dynamics. As long as the team's cool with it, what's the issue? This isn't just about a backup QB going viral. This is a frontline case study in what happens when the NFL's old guard slams into a new generation that grew up live streaming their lives. Shedeur Sanders isn't just Deion Sanders' son. He's a digital native, a media strategist disguised as a quarterback. And with Gabriel now holding the starting role, Sanders' sideline moves might be his most powerful plays left. But here's where it gets slippery. NFL franchises aren't TikTok agencies. They want discipline, not distractions. Ken Dorsey's right. Locker room harmony matters. And when you're a third stringer, you're not just playing football, you're auditioning for relevance. Gabriel, for his part, kept it classic, humble, focused, camera shy, in all the right ways. He's the NFL's favorite flavor. Vanilla, but dependable. Sanders, though? He's chaos with a camera, which is either brilliant long-term branding or career sabotage in slow motion. The whole thing raises a brutal question. Can you go viral and still be taken seriously in a league where silence and stoicism are seen as leadership? Because right now, Sanders isn't just fighting for a roster spot. He's navigating a high-stakes tightrope between content king and cautionary tale. One more mime act, and he could either land a Netflix deal or a one-way ticket out of the league. You are watching the NFL implode over a quarterback who didn't even say a word. And somehow, that silence might be the loudest thing the league has heard all season. Shedeur Sanders, yes, that Shedeur, son of primetime himself, Deion Sanders, just went viral in a way that has the entire NFL world spiraling. Not for a game-winning drive, not for a trick play. No, this all started because he mimed. Like, literally pantomimed his way through a press conference. No words, just silent gestures and an annoyingly charismatic smirk that felt like it was daring everyone in the room to get mad. And oh, they did. This wasn't just any third-string QB sitting quietly in the shadows. This was Shedeur Sanders, current clipboard holder for the Cleveland Browns, dropping a full-on content bomb in the middle of NFL Media Day. The moment went viral faster than a Mahomes highlight reel. Memes flooded timelines. TikToks reenacting the scene popped up before the press conference even ended. Fans called it iconic. Critics called it a red flag. And the league? Well, the league did what it does best, completely overreacted. Enter Pat McAfee, a man who lives for moments like this. On his show, McAfee practically saluted Sanders for what he called one of the most elite troll jobs in NFL history. He couldn't get enough. To McAfee, this wasn't just trolling, it was performance art. A middle finger to media protocol, a wink to the new generation of players who understand that brand is power and content is currency. Especially when you're a backup, or a backup's backup. And let's be real. As the son of Deion Sanders, Shedeur was never going to play by old-school rules. His entire football DNA is built around flash, showmanship, and controlling the narrative. In a league where quarterbacks are expected to be robotic faceplates for billion-dollar teams, Shedeur decided to be a walking, miming meme. And it worked. But of course, for every McAfee hyping him up, there's a Rex Ryan throwing a full-on meltdown. Rex went scorched earth. Called it disrespectful, said Sanders was embarrassing himself, and warned teams to steer clear of anyone who puts viral moments over team unity. To Rex, this wasn't clever. It was career suicide in real time. And that's where things start to spiral. Because now the league is split. On one hand, you've got guys like McAfee who understand that football in 2025 is entertainment first. That backup QBs with zero playing time can still trend on Twitter, land endorsement deals, and build a brand that outlasts their snap count. On the other, you've got NFL veterans and analysts clutching pearls over the state of locker room culture. Like Ken Dorsey, who diplomatically reminded everyone that cohesion still matters. That whatever antics go down in front of cameras, the locker room better be cool with it, or things fall apart. But here's the thing, Shedeur might actually be playing this smarter than anyone realizes. He knows he's not the starter. That spot went to Dillon Gabriel, another young QB, but the polar opposite in media presence. Gabriel shows up, says the right things, keeps his head down. He gave a motivational quote about being ready when called, and basically embodied the NFL's textbook example of professionalism. And while he's now the one running the offense, he's not the one going viral. That title belongs to the guy silently acting out invisible walls at a press conference. And that's the gamble. Shedeur's mime act wasn't a meltdown. It was a move. A high-risk, high-reward play designed to do one thing: keep him in the conversation. Because third-string QBs don't get camera time unless they do something wild. And in a league dominated by highlight reels and calculated branding, Shedeur's move might have just bought him more visibility than most backups get in a season. But the question is, does it help or hurt? NFL decision-makers are watching all of this closely. And while some might appreciate the media savvy, others see it as a flashing warning sign. Because this is still the NFL. A place where players are cut for tweeting too much or celebrating too hard. Where the old guard believes discipline trumps personality and quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks, should be more Brady, less TikTok. So what happens when your backup QB becomes a walking storyline? Does it fracture the locker room? Or does it rally the team around a guy who refuses to be sidelined by irrelevance? That's the tightrope Shedeur is walking right now. One foot in the future of the NFL, a world of social media, content creation, and brand-first mentality. The other still stuck in a league that demands respect, silence, and team-first loyalty. And no one's really sure which side will win. What's wild is that Shedeur's strategy isn't totally off base. In today's league, going viral can literally change your career. One clip, one moment, and suddenly you're on a different team, signed to a new deal, or sitting across from a podcast host explaining your side of the story. And if you're not starting, that attention becomes your currency. Look around, players are brands now. Their Instagram following matters almost as much as their yards per game. Teams want marketable talent. And Shedeur? He's got the DNA, the legacy, and the clout. He just needs to keep the spotlight on him long enough to get another shot. But here's the danger. When everything becomes content, people start questioning what's real. Is Shedeur genuinely just being himself? Or is he crafting every move for the algorithm? That's where the backlash creeps in. Because the NFL, despite its new media pivot, still smells inauthenticity from a mile away. And when the act starts to feel like an act, the respect starts to evaporate. That's what Rex Ryan was screaming about. Not just the mime thing, but what it symbolizes. A growing disconnect between football as a team-first sport and football as an influencer-fueled platform. To Rex, Shedeur's silence wasn't clever. It was calculated. And in his eyes, that's worse than saying something dumb. It's saying nothing and still expecting the spotlight. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel is out here winning favor by just doing the job. Quiet, focused, humble. The NFL loves that. Loves a guy who lets his play do the talking. And while it's not nearly as exciting for TikTok, it might be what actually gets him a long-term spot. So where does that leave Shedeur? Either he's playing chess while everyone else is stuck in checkers, or he's setting himself up to be the next cautionary tale. A guy with all the talent in the world, but too obsessed with the show to stay on the field. And if that happens, the league will use him as an example. A warning shot to the next viral sensation who thinks going full mime is a good career move. But maybe that's exactly the point. Maybe Shedeur's not trying to fit into the system. Maybe he's building something that exists outside of it. A hybrid career where NFL relevance fuels media success, and media success becomes its own brand. He doesn't have to throw a touchdown every Sunday to stay famous. He just has to keep being talked about. And right now, he's winning that game. But it's a fragile win. One that depends on timing, perception, and not pushing things too far. If the locker room stays cool, the fans stay entertained, and the coaches see the value, he survives. Maybe even thrives. But if one of those things falls apart, the same silence that made him famous could be the silence that ends his NFL run. So here we are. One quarterback trending for saying nothing. One analyst screaming about it like it's the end of the NFL. And a league caught between two worlds. One built on grit and grind, the other on clicks and clout. In the end, Shedeur Sanders might not just be testing the limits of what a quarterback can do. He might be redefining what a quarterback is in 2025. Whether that ends in a Pro Bowl, a podcast empire, or a Where Are They Now special, the game has changed. And you just witnessed the quietest controversy of the year. If you're still debating whether Shedeur Sanders is a genius or a cautionary tale, drop a comment below. Whose side are you on? The old school discipline of Dillon Gabriel or the viral chaos of Shedeur's brand play? Don't forget to subscribe for more weekly breakdowns of the meltdowns, media madness, and moments that make sports absolutely unhinged. Because this saga isn't just about a silent press conference. It's about what that silence represents. A third-string quarterback, sitting behind the depth chart like a footnote in someone else's story, somehow managed to hijack an entire NFL news cycle. And not with stats, not with gameplay, with gesture. The sheer absurdity of that should stop you in your tracks. And yet, here we are, debating whether a mime act belongs in a league that still romanticizes helmet dents and locker room speeches. Because as much as the NFL wants to evolve, it still clings to a very specific kind of masculinity. Grit, toughness, silence, of the stoic kind, not the theatrical kind. So when Shedeur pantomimed his way around uncomfortable questions, it wasn't just funny. It was a challenge to the system. He didn't just skip answering. He rejected the question entirely. And in doing so, he exposed the gap between NFL media expectations and the current reality of athlete branding. The league wants personality, but only the right kind. Charisma? Yes. Swagger? Sure. But memes? Viral bait? Strategic silence? That's where the wires start to fry. Because what Shedeur did wasn't in the script. It wasn't approved, focus grouped, or coach reviewed. It was unpredictable. And if there's one thing the NFL hates more than bad ratings, it's chaos they didn't control. But here's where it gets murky. For all the noise about team-first mentality and distractions, let's not pretend the NFL isn't already drenched in content. Every team has a social team. Every game has mic'd up players. And every post-game moment is sliced and diced into bite-sized, shareable clips within minutes. So when Shedeur bypasses the middleman and creates his own viral moment, why is that suddenly a problem? It's because he controlled the narrative. And the NFL hates when players do that on their own terms. Now contrast that with Dillon Gabriel, who's playing the game the right way. No antics. No drama. Just focus, humility, and textbook press answers. And you know what? There's a solid chance he'll ride that professionalism into a long, if quiet, NFL career. He's the kind of guy coaches love. Reliable. Respectful. The quarterback equivalent of a plain black t-shirt. Always in style, never too loud. But Shedeur isn't trying to be a black t-shirt. He wants to be a limited edition drop. The kind that sells out in minutes and breaks the internet before it hits shelves. And that's where the league starts sweating. Because if more players follow that playbook, if the third stringers start realizing that clout can compensate for limited snaps, then the entire hierarchy gets shaky. Think about it. When you're sitting third on the depth chart, your best chance to get noticed isn't waiting for an injury. It's going viral. That's the new economics of fame in pro sports. And Shedeur, raised in a household that understands media better than most PR teams, is simply applying the formula. But here's where the cracks show. The more Shedeur leans into the content machine, the more the league's purists start labeling him a distraction. Not because he's actually disrupting team chemistry, we don't even know that, but because he's not playing the game their way. It's the same energy that once labeled players like Cam Newton too flashy, or called out Odell Beckham Jr. for being more interested in Instagram than touchdowns. It's a tale as old as football. Young, charismatic players pushing boundaries, and the old guard panicking. So when Rex Ryan popped a metaphorical blood vessel over Shedeur's press conference, it wasn't really about that moment. It was about the threat of it. The idea that players might start treating the NFL like YouTube, where the best story wins, not the best stats. And in that world, guys like Shedeur might become more influential than the starters. Let that sink in. The backup QB, the guy not even dressed on game day, could have more cultural capital than the man under center if he plays the content game right. That's terrifying for traditionalists and exhilarating for anyone watching the NFL shift into the influencer economy. Because like it or not, we're already there. Teams are watching follower counts. Agents are leveraging engagement metrics during contract negotiations. Shoe deals and streaming appearances are negotiated based on how clickable a player is. So when Shedeur shows he can dominate a news cycle without even opening his mouth, the message is clear. This is power. But the danger? That power is fragile. It doesn't guarantee job security. Coaches still decide who gets on the field. And if your content starts to eclipse your contribution, the leash gets tight. Fast. That's what makes this whole saga so fascinating and so risky. Because if Shedeur keeps pushing this angle, he either cracks the code or ends up blacklisted. The NFL is known for silent blackballing. They won't say it's because of your social media antics. They'll say you didn't fit the system or weren't a scheme match. But behind the scenes, it's often about optics, reputation, control. And let's not forget the elephant in the room, his last name. Being Deion Sanders' son is both a blessing and a burden. It opens doors, but it also paints a target. People are quick to assume you're entitled, that you're trying to coast on legacy. So when Shedeur pulls a stunt like this, it doesn't land in a vacuum. It gets viewed through the lens of his father's fame, his media upbringing, and the weight of expectation. That's why the stakes are so high. He's not just some no-name backup. He's Shedeur Sanders, raised in the spotlight, trained in the art of swagger, and now performing live on the NFL stage. Every move he makes, every mime, every post, every viral stunt is being dissected not just as content, but as intent. And that might be the most exhausting part of all. In a league where image matters almost as much as performance, Shedeur's strategy walks a razor-thin line between brilliant and self-sabotaging. So what happens next? Maybe nothing. Maybe this all blows over, and Shedeur keeps playing backup, throwing in the occasional viral moment to keep his name alive. Or maybe, just maybe, this mime press conference becomes a flashpoint. A moment where the NFL is forced to reckon with the new rules of relevance. Because make no mistake, this is bigger than one player. It's about how the league adapts to the media-savvy generation. The kids who grew up with phones in their hands and know exactly how to go viral before they ever touch a professional field. The players who see football not just as a sport, but as a platform. And platforms need attention to survive. Shedeur knows that. And he's betting everything on it. Whether that bet pays off, only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, he's not backing down. Not with his family name. Not with McAfee hyping him up like he's the second coming of chaos. And definitely not with his Instagram blowing up every time he pulls a stunt. So next time someone says actions speak louder than words, just remember, Sometimes the loudest action is silence. You think Shedeur's mime act was a one-time thing? That he's going to slide back into the shadows, take his clipboard, and quietly watch Dylan Gabriel run the show? No chance. Because here's the dirty secret about going viral. Once you taste that kind of attention, silence starts to feel boring. And for someone like Shedeur, who spent his whole life being watched, branded, and hyped, that kind of boredom is unbearable. This wasn't a stunt. It was a strategy. He's not trying to outplay Gabriel right now. He's trying to outshine him. Different sport entirely. Because while Gabriel is out there running the offense, Shedeur is running the timeline. And in 2025, that might matter just as much. If the NFL hasn't figured it out yet, they're about to. Attention is a form of leverage. And Shedeur? He's stacking it like currency. But here's where it gets deliciously ironic. In trying to criticize him, Rex Ryan amplified him. That fiery rant on national TV might as well have been an endorsement deal. McAfee's praise? Basically a content creator's golden buzzer. Every time someone with a big platform rages about Shedeur's antics, they give him exactly what he wants: reach. This is the part where the NFL starts eating itself. Because the very ecosystem that claims to hate distractions is built to reward them. The league thrives on headlines. Networks need controversy. Fans scroll for drama. And now we're watching this feedback loop play out in real time. Shedeur sparks a moment. Media erupts. Coaches grumble. Ratings spike. And suddenly, he's back in the conversation without playing a single down. That's not a fluke. That's the playbook. So now you've got a third-string quarterback holding more narrative power than some starters. All because he understands the assignment. He's not waiting for his shot. He's manufacturing it. Building a resume of cultural relevance while the league tries to figure out how to box him in. But good luck with that. Because this isn't the kind of storm you contain. It's a kind that forces you to rebuild the shelter. Shedeur Sanders is forcing the NFL to reckon with the uncomfortable truth. Players today aren't just athletes, they're media properties. And the smart ones aren't waiting for permission to capitalize on that. They're pressing record, going silent, and letting the internet do the rest. So yeah, Shedeur might not be the starter, but he's still winning. And if that doesn't scare the old school guys, it should. Let us know where you stand. Team tradition or team timeline? Is this the new NFL or just a detour off the rails? Hit that subscribe button and buckle up. Because if this is how Shedeur handles being benched, you're not ready for what happens if he ever takes the field.